Hello, and thank you for watching this presentation by the American Irish Society. Please support the organization by becoming a member. Go to irises.org and click on Join. Thank you.
So this topic is a continuation of our last week's session on Novelty Irises. Now, from last week to this week, friends of mine have shared additional pictures of broken color and flatties. So I wanted to share those with you because novelties are ever changing, and we know that. So my real good friend from Oregon, Kevin Vaughn, shared several pictures of broken color seedlings. And again, that's what I wanted to share with you. So the one on the left, you can see solid yellow standards. And then we've got the broken color on the falls with a beautiful yellow band around those falls. And on the right-hand side, we see a mostly yellow and white with all the purple little polka dots all over it, which is really, really cute. And one more seedling that Kevin sent me. You can see the broken color, the dark purple and white on the falls, and then the lighter lavender and white on the standards. And if you look right down here, there's a seed pod. So, you know, hopefully those are going to even be a couple of future generations that will be able to see even more of Kevin's seedlings. So right after the session last week, Mr. Hollingsworth notified me that there was an MTB Flatty, because I said at the last session that I did not believe that there was any. So again, as fast as novelties are changing, I wanted to share this with you. And this is a Flatty, an MTB Flatty of Carol Morgan's. And the name will be Miramay, and I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, and I apologize. But the translation is look at me. And really look at me, because it's great. Very flat here. You'll see the beards. They're almost the same color as all these falls, but very pretty. And again, very symmetrical in that flat form. And then I understand that Terry Aiken will introduce this in 2021 for Carol. So, you know, put this on your wish list if you love novelties. So again, we're going to recap a little bit about what are novelty irises. And again, novelty irises are broken color, and broken color is also known as random color application, color break, and variegated blossoms. Novelty irises are also with variegated foliage, and we're going to see a few of those pictures tonight. And then novelty irises are also space age, and you might see the abbreviation of SA for space age. Last time in our session, we talked about flatties, we talked about tulip tops and no tops. And then there's also some doubles, and we're not going to have an opportunity to talk about all these tonight, but we're going to focus on space age and variegated foliage tonight. So as our world was exploring space beginning in the 1950s, so was the iris world. So we're gonna go through time and see some space age from the 1950s in the iris world. So right now, this would be August of 2020, and I tell you that novelties keep changing, but we're seeing horns, we're seeing flounces, we're seeing pom poms now, feathers, and then full moons, and then with a question mark because who knows where we're going from here. So I believe, and believe is in bold for a reason. In the next couple of slides, you're going to see why I say that. But I do believe that the space age cultivars came into existence by the work of a single individual, which was the late Lloyd Austin in Placerville, California. And Lloyd noted that some placata seedlings in the garden of the late Sidney B. Mitchell had little small growths at the end of the beards. And then he interbred these seedlings until he obtained plants with horns, and then further breeding with spoons and flounces and even some double appendages. And we're going to see some of Lloyd's pictures here soon. So this is a picture of Lloyd. And Lloyd was a plant breeder, first of arrowbred irises, and introduced many named forms of the Regilias and the Onchocyclus. He was also very interested in reblooming irises, and then the space age irises. And Lloyd coined the phrase space age irises. And then he did other novelty irises. We saw those in our last session, which were the Flatties, his introduction of those. So as I mentioned in the last session, Lloyd was a salesman. And what Lloyd left us with from his catalogs, Rainbow Offerings, and Iris Color Guidebook was absolutely beautiful pictures, pictures that we may not even have had of some of these irises that were introduced 40, 50, 60 years ago. And he wanted us to love the irises as much as he did. So he gave us these beautiful descriptions, again, and really neat pictures. So as Lloyd would always sign off his letters, he would always sign them off, iristatically yours. So those of you that know me quite well in the novelty group know that when I sign off a message, I always sign off iristatically yours like Lloyd did. Now again, Lloyd coined the term of horn, which was used to describe a shorter, stubby protrusion at the end or an extension of the beard. And then there's the term spoon, which refers to an elongated version of the same that widens near the end to affect a spoon-shaped petaloid. And we're going to see some exact pictures of that so you can get an idea of what that is. And then the flounce, and it refers to a still larger expansion of this projection into a wide folded, often canoe shape or fan shape embellishment. So I'd remember those three terms, especially because you might see those again on a quiz later on. Now, again, this is a picture of Lloyd. Lloyd passed away in 1963. This is him at the 1956 AIS convention in Los Angeles, California. And while I was doing my research to put this program together, I was frantically searching for where was the AIS convention in 1956. So I literally dug back through some of my old bulletins and old catalogs to find that it was in Los Angeles. And see, since he was in California, that makes sense that Lloyd probably would have attended that convention. So anyway, but I point out Lloyd's all dressed up. You know, he's got his suit coat on, white shirt, you know, he's got his tie, you know, a little bit different than what you see us going to the gardens to in this period of time. So I told you on a couple of slides back that I said I believe that Lloyd is the one that first spotted these little protrusions at the end of the beard that developed into horns and so forth. And Wilma Valet in 1961 wrote a book called Iris Culture and Hybridizing for Everyone. If you get a chance, it's a very interesting book and you can still find it available at times. But Wilma tells us that what we know, that mutations are from recessives. So since most mutations occur as recessives in a single cell or even a single chromosome, they cannot appear until mated with a plant that has either sported the same recessive or inherited it from the original sport, ancestral to both. She goes on to say, Mr. Lloyd Austin's new unicorns are probably of this type of mutation, as they did not sport from existing variety but grew from seed, from a line in which this trait was not visibly present. The original mutations must have been several generations back, as Tom Craig got horned iris from Advance Guard and Moon Goddess many years before unicorn appeared. So I had to look up Advance Guard. So thanks to the wiki, and if you're not familiar with the AIS wiki, it's fabulous. You know, we have great pictures out there that we might not have. So this is a picture I found on the wiki of Advance Guard, and it tells me to click here for an enlarged side view. And if you use your imagination, a great imagination, you might see this little small protrusion here from the end of the beard that might be conceived as a horn. Not as we know it today, but anyway, that was 1945. So this is a picture of Lloyd's 1960 Iris Color Guidebook. And again, if you've not had the opportunity to see some of these catalogs, AIS does have a lot of these catalogs scanned. And again, beautiful pictures for you to see. Lloyd did coin the phrase of space age iris, And he also said that he had the world's first flounched iris during the space age. So some of these, believe it or not, are still available to for use. So we have flounched marble in the top right, and we have super frill in the bottom. And both of these are great examples of flounces that are coming up from as extensions from the end of those beards. So this is another page from his catalog. And if you were to be able to read all of this, you would see, again, these beautiful descriptions that he's giving us. He calls this one spooned lace, which in today's terms, we would probably call this a flounce. But this one here is a good example of a spoon, because that very narrow extension here of the beard ending in what looks like maybe a cup or a little spoon. So this is another example of flounced loveliness from his catalog. Again, in today's terms and form and everything, you know, a lot different. But again, this was probably 1955, 1960 here. So in this picture, again, more beautiful pictures of what he considered as horns or spoons or flounces. But this is what I want to call your attention to in the bottom left, because this is, according to Lloyd, the world's first horned iris called unicorn. And it has a very interesting origination. So are you ready? Okay. So in 1954, Lloyd's catalog introduced unicorn. And by the way, that same year, Rhythm was introduced, the Flatty we saw at the last session. But look at the price, $100. Now, in 2020 dollars, I don't know what that'd be worth, maybe $700 or $800. Obviously, a huge amount of money even today. But Lloyd gives us this fabulous description of unicorn. Tells us it blooms medium to late, mid-season to late, 42-inch stalks, so very tall stalks. But look down here, this is what I want to draw your attention to. Unicorn yields abundant fertile pollen and sets seeds readily. Although this first bloomed for me in 1953, I already have quite a number of crosses of unicorn with the newest and tall bearded irises. Now, I wonder how many unicorn that Lloyd actually had in 1954 if he first saw that bloom in 1953, if you think about it. And maybe Lloyd's intention was not even to sell one at $100, you know, but at least to let people know, hey, I'm introducing this thing. It's the newest, the greatest, and it's $100 if you want it. So this is Lloyd's description of unicorn. Again, she's very tall. And Lloyd always told us whether it was pollen fertile, pod fertile, you know, if it set seeds easily. So he was willing to give us as hybridizers or potential hybridizers all this great knowledge that we might want to invest in this iris. And let me tell you, if you don't grow unicorn, it is fabulous, because especially if you want to win best tall bearded, best novelty, best space age, best historical, best placata. I mean, this is the one that you probably could do that with, even at a 1954, so it's 66 years old. It will open one or two at the same time, perfectly spaced, great branching. So it's one that I would highly recommend. And fortunately, it's available on the market quite a bit. Now, this is Mars Preview, one of Lloyd's 1963 introductions. Again, what I'm going to emphasize and reemphasize with space age irises is whether we're garden judging or we're exhibition judging, we want to see the consistency. So the consistency of the appendages. We don't want to see one horn, one flounce, and then nothing. We want to see this right here. And what I think is interesting about this, and you know, whether you like half markings or you don't like half markings, we're not even going to go there. But what's interesting about this is with the half markings on the fall, look, the half markings go up into these appendages here, which I think is quite interesting. This is Lloyd's horned rosy red, 1958. Again, very tall, 40-inch stalks. But that consistency you can definitely see here. And then this was his last catalog, 1966. Remember I told you that Lloyd passed away in 1963, and Gladys Austin, his wife, kept the garden for 3 more years, continued to introduce Lloyd seedlings, and then finally closed it in 1966. And she too always signs off, "Iristatically yours," just like Lloyd did. Now let's talk about some other space age iris hybridizers. And one of those is Captain Manly Osborne. Well, I've grown Osborne irises for a long time, and I never knew he was known as Captain Manly Osborne. He passed away in 2009. He was a long career Navy man, left the Navy, went into aerospace, finally retired in 1985. And for hybridizing, he was only in hybridizing for 20 years, which is really not a long time for most of our hybridizers. But anyway, during that period of 20 years, he introduced Skyhooks. And I hope you have grown Skyhooks or still grow Skyhooks, because great for hybridizing. And it is in the background of Monty Byers' 3 Dykes Medal winners: Conjuration, Mesmerizer, and Thornbird. Now, some of Mr. Osborne's creations are Dauber's Delight. Again, it is from Unicorn Breeding. And then there is his famous Skyhooks. Might not look like the most, impressive color necessarily, but absolutely fabulous with hybridizing. Now, Mr. Osborne is the one that introduced Gladys Austin, which was Lloyd's wife. Beautiful space age and consistency of the appendages, won an HM in 1987. And then we have Ms. Lib, which is a cross of Unicorn and Rococo. And you couldn't do a space age presentation without the Dykes Medal winner, which was Monty Byers. And we don't know the birth year of Monty, but he passed away in 1992, and he passed away very young. And it's very unfortunate, because I would like to see what irises today that Monty could have brought to us, since he was so advanced in hybridizing during the period of time that he was with us. He owned and operated Moonshine Gardens, and again, won 3 Dykes Medal winners, and unfortunately received those awards after he had passed away. Now, some additional creations of Monty's were TrickorTreat. It's out of Skyhooks. Again, you can see this appendage that comes out straight out, very narrow, and then ends with an appendage here at the end. And then he also did Twice Thrilling, which for most of us, Twice Thrilling will repeat bloom, thus the name, and is used in a lot of hybridizing programs. This is Monty's famous Mesmerizer that won the Dykes in 2002, and you can see its progression through the award system of the American Iris Society until it won in 2002. On the right is Blowtorch, which is a 1986 introduction of Monty's. Again, we're looking for those consistency in the appendages. These are Monty's 2 other Dykes Medal winners, Thornbird on the left, and many of us would say, I love it, love that color, or, just really not my color. But that's why everybody has an independent taste, because anyway, it is a dependable grower and dependable with the appendages. On the right is Conjuration. Again, very distinctive and very consistent with the appendages. On the next slide, we'll see Lloyd Zerbrigg. And Mr. Zerbrigg brought us Silver Trumpets in 2003 with very, very large appendages here, these flounces. And then he brought us Spoon Time, which is a yellow and white blend space age. And then we have Bob Annan. And Mr. Annan passed away in 2013. And I mentioned the shortness of the years of hybridizing of Mr. Osborne. Mr. Annan is the exact opposite. You can see how old Mr. Annan was when he passed away, and he began hybridizing irises at 10 years old. So he had quite a long career of iris hybridizing. So on the left is Bob's Pride that he introduced several years ago. And then look, on the right, we have Khalifa's Horn. and it's an OGB minus. So now we have broken color, we have space age, and we have arrowbred. Another hybridizer from Nebraska is Leroy Meininger. And Mr. Meininger did various ones of the space age. I apologize, my picture of Love of Moonscape is not that great, but the point that I wanted to make with this is that overly large, bright red beard that ends in a horn. And obviously that coloration of that beard and that, then that horn draws us to that iris. On the right is Red Canyon Glow that Leroy did in 2000, very pretty iris. And then most of us are familiar with Ben Hager. Ben did a lot of iris introductions, award winners. These are two of his space age irises. This is Jump for Joy in 1999, very pretty pink with the appendages here. And then we have Jester, and Jester is probably one of the most famous space age irises that he did. And here you can definitely tell the spoon. So from the beard, we come down the spoon in this very narrow appendage here, and then ends in a cup or a spoon at the end. Keith Chadwick was from Idaho and did a lot of Oasis irises. So two of the space age irises that he did was Oasis Danny in 2005 with some really roughly flounces here. And then also he did Oasis Shooting Star. Again, pointing out we are really looking for that consistency. And then Dawn and Jenny Spoon have Winterberry Gardens in Virginia. And they have introduced quite a few space age irises. These are two of their irises. This was Crazy in 2006. And look, and this appendage here, it has several maybe points here that we haven't seen before on an iris. And then we have Potomac Fireworks on the right. And then most of you hopefully had an opportunity to meet George Sutton or definitely grow some of George's irises. He passed away in 2013, and Mike, his son, continued his hybridizing program, and we'll see a couple of Mike's things later on. But I had to include Texas two-step. I mean, I'm born and raised in Texas. So anyway, I included Texas two-step. Again, we're seeing some beautiful feathering here, which is a new term for us, on these falls at the end of the beard. And then George also did Bugles and Horns in 1997. Mr. Migo did Pom Pom Party, and we started watching this as a seedling, a number of years ago. And I don't know, this looks like a cheerleader or something with those, the pom poms that the cheerleaders have, because again, I don't think you could get more consistent with this. And the one thing I want to point out, while this pom pom here is so large, it keeps the shape of the fall. And sometimes you'll see the appendage that's so large that it pulls this fall down, and we don't want to see that. But this definitely keeps the shape of the iris fall, and it also has that beautiful pom-pom. Mr. Schick did Angel Flare in 2006. Very nice gentleman. He has passed away now, but he used Twice Thrilling, and we saw Twice Thrilling earlier, one of Monty's introductions, and crossed that with Mesmerizer. Tom Bursing did Spring Starter. We saw Don't Doubt Dalton and Spring Starter in our last presentation of Broken Color. I wanted to show you Spring Starter here. You can see very, very long appendage here coming at this beard extends way down to the middle of the fall, but you still got the broken color here on the standards and the falls. This is Angler Fish that Mr. Richardson, who passed away several years ago, introduced this one in 2014, and it is out of Thornbird. So you can definitely see some of the Thornbird coloration here. And now we have horns that we don't see any of the feathering on, that they're very slick. This is one of Cheryl Deaton's seedlings, and Cheryl may have introduced this by now. We grew it as a seedling. And look how long, so you've got this long extended beard here then you've got this long appendage that it goes down to probably the entire length of that fall. But very beautiful, very interesting seedling. And then Hooker Nichols did some Flatties and Space Age, as well as other different varieties of irises. But in 1981, he introduced Hagars Helmet. And you can see the little horns coming up from Hagars Helmet. It was the first intermediate bearded, or IB, Space Age to win an award of merit. On the right, we have Austin City Blues, very popular. It's an icy blue with a beautiful, little bit darker horn coming down here on the fall. So David Toth's themes we saw for the last few years at conventions, but particularly at the California convention. We saw some of his irises there as seedlings that I showed you in the last presentation. But these are two of his named varieties, You Go Girl, that he introduced in 2019. And again, look at this feathering that we're really beginning to see here. And then on the right is Sketchy Character, broken color standards and falls, definitely Space Age. And look, at the tips of these, the coloration on this appendage is also broken color that matches the standard in the fall. In 2011, Mr. Hedgecock brought us High Alert. Now we're going into definitely two colors. You've got the electric orange here, breaking into a lavender type purple here on an elongated beard. He also brought us Zombie Zoo in 2015. Again, this very long beard, and then ending in this feathered flounce here, almost extending to the end of that fall. A couple of other introductions, a little bit older, are Tom Burstein's Awesome Alex that won HM and an AM. Again, you've got that large red beard ending in a purple horn. You've got Bermuda Triangle, a combination of the yellow and purple, and the very same colorations that are on these appendages as the standards in the falls. Now, I think Thor's Lightning Bolt of Beans is very interesting. And again, a lot of these Space Age here, if you did not have the name tag in front of it, or if it's at a show and you didn't have the name of the iris, it was blind, you would be able to know these. And Thor's Lightning Bolt is one of those, because on here, you don't see any of the feathering coming off of these horns. They're very slick, they're very narrow, and again, it's very distinctive. On the right is Thai Blue, which is another Space Age, which is one of Tom Burstein's older introductions. Now, Monty Byers introduced Olive Flutter, and it was a cross of Conjuration and Mesmerizer. And when I put this program together, I laughed because I thought, I wonder how many of us made those crosses, because tons of us did, you know. We're crossing two Dykes Medal winners. They're both beautiful irises, no telling what we're going to get. And we all got all kinds of different, very pretty irises from that. So on the right, you see Announcement. This is a Paul Black introduction, won awards with AIS. And now we're seeing these appendages become more vertical rather than horizontal coming out from the beard. We're seeing them more erect, more vertical. And again, we continue seeing that vertical trend with Art School Angel. Chris Visvari did this. Chris was from Oklahoma and did this very pretty iris. On the right, we have Bearded Wonder, Mrs. Robarts. And again, look, she's using Skyhooks and Twice Thrilling. So again, Twice Thrilling appearing multiple times that the hybridizers are using. And this here is a feathering. Looks like maybe a bird nest or something down here, but very distinctive, very pretty. So speaking of bird nest, we have Canary Feathers and all these featherings that are coming out on this appendage here of Canary Feathers. However, even though this is very elongated, you're still keeping the shape of that fall that you want to see here. And then on the right, we have Devil's Fork. And this is the Cads, I believe, that did this. and you've got this huge beard here. Then you've got this feathering, and then you've got this flounce. So we're combining feathering and flounces and all kinds of things. So these are the Pom Poms. Very distinctive. This is a self yellow with the same color of Pom Pom. And you can see right where that comes as an extension at the end of that beard. This is another example of a Pom Pom. Now we're seeing kind of a lavender tones with the pink on the pink fall. And this is Big Bang Theory, one of Mr. Jedlicka's that he did in 2008. It is a border bearded. Thor's lightning bolt that I talked a lot about a couple of slides back was part of his cross. Actually, it was the mother of the cross. And remember, if you're hybridizers, the mother goes first, so that's what the pollen went on to create the pod. And then this was a more complicated seedling here that was used the pollen from. Again, I think this looks like strawberry or peach ice cream. Maybe I'm just hungry, but anyway, this is a beautiful self pom-pom that comes off of the extension of that beard. This is Inky Icon that Tom did several years ago. And again, you've got that very elongated extension here, white on the top, and then it kind of looks like a little bit of placata in here and ending in purple. So let's talk about some additional irises that are very popular. And I want to show the consistency. So that's why these are featured. This is a border bearded that Linda Miller did. Look at these long horns here, but definitely consecutive. This is Cross the Line of Mike Sutton's, George's son. Now we're seeing 3 colors in this appendage here. So, and they're vertical. So we're seeing kind of yellow gold here, changing to white, changing to purple, and with the feathering that's going on toward the end here. This is Mind Changer of Linda Miller's. Again, a little bit darker, but very distinctive horns and very consistent. This is an example of the horns that are in flounces that are vertical. So you've got feathering in here, elongation into this flounce. And this is my Cha-Cha-Cha that I introduced in 2018. It is a reblooming space age iris, opens 2 or 3 at the same time. And it won the Zurbrigg Mahan Award when the convention was in New Jersey several years ago. This is an IB that Rick Pascoe introduced in 2017. Yellow self, darker yellow beard, coming out to a lavender horn there. This is Bonnie Scott's introduction, Zach's Blaster. Very small horn, but very distinctive of the darker color. This is Uptown Art, one of Tom Bursine's from 2017. And then this was a new hybridizer that we were introduced to at the New Jersey Convention. I don't know if this was ever introduced, but hopefully he is continuing his hybridizing program and definitely, you know, hoping to achieve even more and more from those beautiful flounces. This is Cabbage Patch of Terry Akins that he weighed across of Conjuration. And then this is another one of Mr. Jedlicka's seedlings that, you know, it just looks like, again, it almost looks double.
Thank you for watching this video by the American Iris Society. Please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to click on the little bell that will notify you when the next video is posted.